Thank you for joining us this evening. This is a reminder that this virtual public information meeting will be starting at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is a reminder that this virtual public information meeting will be starting at 7 p.m. The virtual public information meeting will be starting momentarily.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Connecticut Department of Transportation and the Town of Wilton, I would like to welcome you all for attending this virtual public informational meeting for State Project number 161-142, replacement of bridge number 04975, located on Lovers Lane over Comstock Brook in the Town of Wilton. My name is Preeti Bardwaj, and I am the department's project manager assigned to this project. My team and I are working together with Frank Smariglio, Assistant Public Works Director for the Town of Wilton, because this is a town-owned bridge. And the design that we will be presenting this evening for this bridge is in full partnership with the Town of Wilton. I will now explain how you will be able to interact with the project team. There are three means of how you will be able to communicate. The first is by email, which is dotproject016-0142@ct.gov, and I will spell that out. It's DOTEROJECT 0161-0142 at ct.gov. You can also phone in by telephone. The number is 860-944-1111. Again, 860-944-1111. Or you can also communicate by chat on the MS Teams live event chat. And in this format, you can ask a question by clicking on the little question mark, which shows Q&A. This will bring up your live event Q&A field. Select the Ask a Question button at the bottom right screen, and a field will pop up. And you can type your question and hit either Enter with a little arrow button to send, or you can also check the box on the bottom to post your question anonymously if you prefer. There will be a slight delay, but eventually your question will appear in the featured section with all other questions that are asked tonight. The project email, phone, and chat will be screened by the project team during the Q&A session, and the questions asked by any of these methods will be posted to the MS Teams Q&A chat window. The questions will be asked out loud for the project team to answer. You can ask questions at any time during the presentation, but we will answer these questions during the live Q&A session that follows. We also have the project webpage link, where the recording of tonight's entire presentation, including the Q&A session, will be stored. The web page will also contain the same information that I have previously explained on how to provide comments and ask questions. And that project web page is portal.ct.gov/DOT Wilton 161-142. And I will spell that out. portal.ct.gov/DOT Wilton 161-142. And lastly, please remember the comment period to ask questions or provide comments will be open through October 29th, 2020 via either email or telephone. So if you think of a question after tonight's meeting or want to expand on a question asked tonight, you will have October 29th to do so. The MS Teams chat function is only available during tonight's live Q&A session. We would greatly appreciate it if you could fill out the demographic survey the department has through SurveyMonkey. This virtual public informational meeting platform is still a relatively new one for the department, and this survey will help the department improve these meetings going forward. There's also a civil rights flyer available. Both the links to the survey and civil rights flyer are located on the previously mentioned project webpage. And lastly, I am required to read the following statement as part of the Title VI Civil Rights Act, and that is, no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. I would now like to go over some of tonight's goals. I will be explaining how this project is funded in the Federal Local Bridge Design Managed by the State, or DMS, program. We will be having welcoming remarks by Mr. Frank Smariglio, Assistant Public Works Director for the Town of Wilton. I will then introduce the project design team. That includes the department's front office leadership, the department's bridge consultant design team, and the consultant liaison engineer design team. The consultant liaison engineers will then give a technical presentation of the design, which will include background of the project, condition of the existing structure, purpose and need for the project, and recommend viable design proposals, which has been completed to around 30%. As part of the department's public outreach program, it is at this point we reach out to you, while it is still early in the design process, to receive any comments and concerns and also to answer any questions. We will also have a representative from the department's right-of-way office to explain the rights-of-way process. And lastly, we will have a live question and answer session. I will now explain how this project is being funded. This bridge is a town-owned bridge and is being funded under the department's Federal Local Bridge Program. Traditionally in this program, the town selects a designer, and because federal funds are involved, the department provides administrative oversight because the department is considered to be stewards of those federal funds. The funding is traditionally 80% federal and 20% town for the design, rights-of-way, and construction phases of the project. However, this project is going to be funded under the department's newly launched DMS, or Design Managed by the State program. In this program, it will be the department who will be performing the design on behalf of the municipality, utilizing our consultant liaison engineers, who are CHA, or Clough Harbor Associates, on this project. CHA has completed the 30% preliminary design and will be presenting you two viable alternates for this project. And one of those alternates, the selected alternate, will be brought to final design completion by one of our pre-selected task-based designers. In addition, the design phase only will now be funded with 80% federal and 20% state funds, so the entire design phase is at zero cost to the town of Wilton. Although the 30% preliminary design was performed by the department, it was in full partnership and coordination with the town of Wilton. We held several meetings with the town and diligently worked together to incorporate most of the town's comments and concerns, and now we are reaching out to you, the community, to also weigh in. The initiative behind the DMS program was to expedite design delivery for municipal projects. The DMS program uses a streamlined design approach where we are able to utilize full departmental resources and are able to internally perform design tasks concurrently rather than linearly. In this program, we are able to cut down the typical design time by a half and bring these projects to construction quicker, which is enabling the department's goal to keep our town bridges in a perennial state of good repair. Also, the department is able to offer expertise on accelerated bridge construction techniques, or ABC, which are routinely used on state projects. And now that knowledge will be available on town projects. ABC techniques are also being employed on the Lovers Lane Bridge. The department is pleased to be able to offer this program to the town of Wilton. The DMS program is spending your municipal and state tax dollars efficiently and effectively, and at the same time fostering great working relationships with our municipal partners. And with that, I'll now hand it over to Mr. Frank Smariglio, Assistant Public Works Director for the town of Wilton.
Hi, my name is Frank Smirglio. I am the Town Engineer and Assistant Director of Public Works for Wilton. I want to thank everyone for joining. I wanted to give you a little background on Wilton's bridges and a brief description of how it translates into prioritizing the bridge on Lovers Lane. There are 27 bridges in Wilton that fall into two categories. One category are bridges that are over 20 feet in length, and the second category are bridges that are between 6 and 20 feet in length. The bridges that are over 20 feet in length are generally inspected by the state DOT every 2 years. The bridges that are between 6 and 20 feet in length are generally inspected approximately once every 10 years by the state. These reports are given to the town as an initial starting point for the towns to formulate a master plan. The bridge repairs are prioritized, and Lovers Lane is one of the bridges on top of the list. With all the bridges and the various works needed on each, the town has to take advantage of state and federal grant programs to accomplish the work needed on all the bridges. So for Lovers Lane Bridge, this qualified and was approved for what's called Federal Local Bridge Program. In this program, the federal government pays 80% of design and construction, and the town pays for 20% of construction. This grant is monitored by the state of Connecticut DOT. The state of Connecticut also provides a supplemental program award for this bridge, where they are partnering with the town to complete the design process. This program includes the state paying for the remaining 20% of the design costs. The towns are able to utilize their in-house engineers and on-call consultants to navigate this project through the different design concepts, different permit requirements, and the final design. I look forward to hearing everyone's input, as it's very valuable for the town of Wilton. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I would now like to introduce the project team. I am Preeti Bardwaj, the project manager shown in the center. To my left are the department's front office leadership, which includes Mr. Bart Sweeney, Division Chief of Bridges, and Mr. Robbie Barakat, Principal Engineer. To my right are Mr. Mark Burns, Project Engineer, and Mr. Dennis McDonald from the department's Rights of Way. The consultant liaison engineers who have brought this project to 30% design completion are Clough Harbor Associates, and from CHA we have Mr. Anand Shazadri, Project Manager, and Mr. Tom Lapata, Senior Design Engineer. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are finally ready to present our technical portion of the presentation, and you will be hearing a lot of bridge lingo throughout the presentation. Therefore, I am about to give you a 2-minute crash course on some of the structural elements on a bridge and the numerical condition rating system assigned on a bridge. On the diagram shown, the deck is the riding surface of a bridge. The parapets, or sometimes bridges can also have an open rail system, helps prevent errant vehicles from going off the bridge. The beams, or the girders, are the supporting structural elements on the bridge and are designed to support vehicular loads and the self-weight of the bridge and any environmental loads such as wind, seismic, etc. The parapets, the deck, and the beams are what is known as the superstructure on a bridge. The abutments and the wing walls are the end supports on the bridge, and piers if there are any, are the intermediate supports. The abutments, the wing walls, and the piers, if there are any, make up what is known as the substructure of a bridge. The substructure not only supports the superstructure, but also helps in transmitting loads from the superstructure down to the bridge foundations. All state bridges and town bridges over 20 feet in length are inspected every 2 years by the Department's Bridge Safety and Evaluation Unit and are assigned a condition rating on its major elements on a scale of 1 through 9, with 9 being excellent condition and 1 being imminent failure condition. When a major bridge element reaches a 4, or poor condition, that is when we start to initiate a project to address the structural deficiencies. Now that you are armed with basic bridge knowledge, I would now like to introduce Mr. Tom Lapata from CHA, who will be presenting the technical portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Preeti, and welcome everyone. As mentioned, I will be discussing the technical portion of tonight's presentation for project number 161-142, replacement of bridge number 4975, Lover's Lane over Comstock Brook. On the screen is an aerial view of Wilton in the vicinity of the project. Lover's Lane is located off Route 33 in the bottom left corner and runs north, crossing over Comstock Brook at bridge number 4975. Beyond the bridge, there are a total of 10 residents, including those on Merwin Lane, which branches off of Lover's Lane and extends to the northwest direction. Following Lover's Lane to its end, you will reach the Merwin Meadows Park. Both Lover's Lane and Merwin Lane are dead-end roadways, and their only means of ingress and egress to Route 33 is across bridge number 4975. Bridge number 4975 was built in 1930 and carries across it approximately 400 vehicles per day. The bridge has a span length of 33 feet and a curb-to-curb width of 16 foot 6. In other words, the drivable width across the structure is 16 foot 6. In the northwest corner of the bridge, a driveway leads to the play shop. In the northeast corner of the bridge, there is an existing stone masonry retaining wall that begins at the bridge and extends along Lover's Lane to the north, supporting the roadway. In the southeast corner of the bridge, the driveway to 10 Lover's Lane immediately abuts the structure. To the east of the bridge are overhead utility wires that follow Lover's Lane to the north. And finally, southwest of the bridge is an existing catch basin that conveys roadway drainage into the brook. Here is a section view of the existing bridge superstructure. The curb-to-curb width is 16 foot 6, and the out-to-out or the overall bridge width is 18 foot 2. The bridge superstructure is comprised of 6 steel girders that are fully encased within the concrete deck. The metal beam rail across the bridge is for containing errant traffic and is mounted on concrete curbing. Above the concrete deck is the pavement structure comprised of a bituminous concrete wearing surface. During the preliminary engineering phase, information was gathered on the bridge, but unfortunately plans of the existing bridge or superstructure do not exist. Here is an elevation view looking at the bridge from its east side. As mentioned earlier, the superstructure spans 33 feet across the brook and is supported by its concrete abutment substructures shown here on the south and here on the north. The southern abutment is a concrete stub abutment founded directly on exposed ledge. The northern abutment is a taller concrete abutment that is supported by concrete footings. We can see the stone masonry retaining wall at the northeast corner of the bridge as well. From a hydraulic standpoint, the low chord of the bridge is at elevation 231.5, and the 100-year storm passes adequately below the bridge at elevation 228.95, resulting in a 2.5-foot underclearance below the bridge. Now that we've seen sketches of the existing bridge, let's take a look at some site photos. The photo on the left is the east elevation of the bridge looking upstream, matches that of the sketch seen in the previous slide. As we can see, there's heavy vegetation present along the banks of the brook. The photo on the right is of the west elevation of the bridge looking downstream, which is a bit more open with fallen trees and brush lying across the brook. Moving on to Lover's Lane, the roadway turns towards the east at the north approach to the bridge, and that's shown here on the photo to the left. The Wilton Play Shop is also located in the northwest corner of the bridge here in this photo. Approach guide rail follows the east side of Lover's Lane at the top of the previously mentioned stone masonry retaining wall as well. At the south approach to the bridge, shown in the photo on the right, the driveway to 10 Lover's Lane is about 4 feet from the bridge. Utility wires run along the east side of the roadway with a utility pole present in the northeast corner of the bridge. Heavy vegetation and tall trees are present on both sides of the bridge. As Pretty mentioned earlier, bridges are inspected by the state and are given condition ratings on their various elements. The photos on the top and underside of the deck are shown here. The encasement of the steel girders within the concrete deck that can be seen on the photo to the right. The overall condition of the deck, comprised of the overlay wearing surface, the concrete deck structure itself, and the bridge railing across it, is rated a 6 or in satisfactory condition. While the railing itself is rated to be satisfactory, it doesn't meet the current safety standards. Although the overlay is rated an 8 or is in very good condition, the rating of the deck structure element, shown here, governs the overall rating of the deck and is therefore rated a 6 or in satisfactory condition. The overall condition of the superstructure, which is comprised of the bearings, girders, and the concrete encasement, is rated a 5 or in fair condition. And this rating is governed by that of the girders, which are rated a 5. The concrete encasement shown on the left and on the right of the girders makes it difficult to adequately assess the condition of the steel girders. However, there's visible deterioration of the steel here, which has caused the concrete encasement to spall off, showing the rusted steel underneath it. Moving below the bridge to the substructure, the overall rating, which consists of the abutments, the footings, the wing walls, and scour, is rated a 4. As mentioned before, the south stub abutment is founded directly on exposed ledge, as shown in the photo on the left, while the north abutment is much taller and supported by a footing below the water line. Below the footing, there is a shadow, which indicates a scoured area or a void below the abutment. The deficiencies that result in the overall substructure rating of a 4 are primarily due to the condition of the north abutment, which exhibits concrete spalling, voids, and efflorescence at the water line of the brook. The stone masonry retaining wall, also shown in the photo on the bottom right, has missing mortar and voids throughout due to missing stones. More importantly, though, the scour below the north abutment footing has resulted in this bridge being classified as scour critical, as noted by the serious rating of 3 in the table below. If a bridge is classified as scour critical, it essentially means that it has high susceptibility for the substructure to be undermined by the erosion of the fill material below it due to the flowing watercourse. Moving on to the condition of the upstream and downstream channel, the overall condition is rated a 6 in satisfactory condition with no noteworthy deficiencies. On the upstream side, the existing debris across the stream is anticipated to remain in place per request of CTDEP, and that's in order to provide coverage for existing fish and aquatic populations in the brook. Looking downstream, the sudden termination of the brook is due to a dam, a waterfall that's located approximately 80 feet from the bridge. So given what has been shown of the existing bridge, there are several deficiencies to address here. First off, the bridge was built in 1930, so it is over 90 years old and well beyond its intended service life. Federal highway, known as FHWA, requires a 22-foot wide curb-to-curb bridge for an ADT of 400 vehicles per day. For the same ADT, CTDOT requires a 24-foot wide bridge because Lover's Lane is classified as an urban local road. Although the state's requirement for curb-to-curb width is 24 feet, the town has the option to choose a 22-foot wide curb-to-curb width for the bridge replacement, satisfying FHWA requirements. Because the existing curb-to-curb width of 16'6" doesn't meet the minimum requirements of 22 feet, the bridge is technically considered to be classified as functionally obsolete. The presentation will be detailing a 24-foot wide curb-to-curb width bridge, but again, the town has the option to pursue a 22-foot wide bridge in design. Although in satisfactory condition, the existing bridge rail system does not meet current safety standards. Due to the encasement of the steel beams, their actual condition is unknown other than what has been exposed from the spalled concrete. Because the beams are encased in concrete, their overall condition is unknown. Additionally, because there are no drawings for the bridge, the actual size of the beams are also unknown and therefore cannot be accurately modeled for load rating the bridge. Therefore, the load rating capacity of 34 tons is a judgment rating based on visible inspections and assumptions made on the size and strength of the encased steel beams. The abutments, particularly the north, is in poor condition due to the deteriorated concrete and would require extensive repairs to address. And lastly, the scour beneath the abutment results in the bridge being classified as scour critical. Therefore, with all that said, a bridge replacement is the only means to correct all of these deficiencies. So with a full bridge replacement, the new bridge would correct all the current structural deficiencies and also eliminate the functional obsolete classification by having a minimum curvature width of at least 22 feet. The new bridge rail or parapets would be crash tested and would meet the current required safety standards as well. The new bridge will also be able to carry current design and legal traffic loads. Additionally, the new bridge would improve hydraulics by raising the low chord of the girders. In order to construct the new bridge and match the existing roadway to the new widened structure, full depth roadway reconstruction will be required. And with that roadway reconstruction, existing drainage structures will be upgraded and new ones will be added to improve the ability for the road to shed water under rainfall events. So during the preliminary engineering phase, various bridge types were investigated for the replacement. However, given the site constraints, the most appropriate bridge type consisted of a pre-stressed concrete deck unit superstructure that is supported by cast-in-place concrete abutments founded directly on bedrock. Alternates 1A and 1B consist of the same bridge, the only difference between them being their means of constructing and handling resident traffic. So alternate 1A consists of installing a temporary bridge across the brook east of the existing bridge, and alternate 1B consists of staging construction across the existing bridge. The next few slides will detail the proposed pre-stressed concrete decking in a bridge in section, plan, and elevation views. Starting with alternate 1A, shown here is a section view of the proposed bridge superstructure. As we can see, the bridge has been widened to accommodate a 24-foot curb-to-curb width, consisting of two 10-foot lanes and two 2-foot shoulders. The travelway over the bridge is protected by an open metal bridge rail system that's mounted directly onto concrete curbing. As mentioned before, the superstructure is comprised of 7 precast concrete deck units that are linked together with a 6-inch concrete deck that is paved over with a bituminous concrete wearing surface. Moving on to the plan elevation view of the new bridge, color coding will more easily show the various components of the proposed bridge and roadway. In orange, we can see the limits of the proposed superstructure, which has a new span length of 43 feet, meeting bank full width requirements of Comstock Brook that are stipulated by environmental regulators. The superstructure is supported by new cast-in-place abutments and wing walls, shown in gray here, which are founded directly onto bedrock. Aesthetically, the bridge will feature a metal open bridge rail system with simulated stone concrete end blocks, shown in orange here in elevation view. The new bridge with higher low chord will continue to pass the 100-year design storm and will now pass the 500-year design storms as well. The eastern curb line of the proposed bridge matches that of the existing structure with the widened portion of the bridge and roadway extending to the west. The widened bridge and roadway, shown in yellow, extend onto private property and beyond the town's right-of-way line, which is shown as the dashed red line across the roadway. The widened roadway will require regrading along its side slopes, which are shown in green here. While light orange represents driveway reconstruction that is necessary as part of the roadway reconstruction. Pink represents the bridge approach guide rail, which will be present at the southwest and northeast corners of the bridge. This will be a timber guide rail system that attaches to the bridge. Lastly, below the bridge, dark blue represents the limits of Comstock Brook, and cyan represents regulated wetland areas. Zooming out a bit, we have a highway plan of the project limits with Route 33 at the far left of Lover's Lane and Merwin Lane at the far right. The limits of the proposed work extend approximately 150 feet and 100 feet north and south of the bridge, respectively. The limits of the town's right-of-way and individual property lines are shown with the dashed red lines. The new bridge requires a slight vertical adjustment of the roadway profile in order to adequately fit the new bridge in place, and thus the extended roadway limits are shown here in yellow and are necessary to smoothly transition back into the existing roadway profile. The existing stone masonry retaining wall at the northeast corner will require reconstruction due to the placement of the temporary bridge, and will be replaced with a new cast-in-place concrete retaining wall, shown in gray here. The approach guide rail, shown in pink, will extend approximately 100 feet away from the bridge at the southwest and northeast corners. The 4 driveways shown in light orange will require reconstruction as they are within the project of the limits of the full depth roadway work. New catch basins will be installed at the southeast and northwest corners of the bridge to better shed water away from it. As mentioned in the previous slide, the new bridge will require a slight increase of 6 inches to the existing roadway profile at the south approach, and that's to fit the new bridge in place and transition smoothly back into the existing roadway. The profile increase is shown here in yellow with the thickness of the superstructure abutting it shown in orange. So alternate 1A consists of using a temporary bridge to maintain traffic throughout construction of the new bridge. The bridge will be 1 lane wide and allow for an alternating one-way traffic pattern using temporary signalization lights at each end of the bridge, similar to what's shown in the photo to the right. The temporary bridge will ultimately be determined by the contractor who was awarded the project and replaces Bridge 4975, but typically for the size needed for the site, temporary bridge would be a modularly built bridge similar to what is shown in the photos to the left. Here we have a plan view of the temporary bridge shown in orange with its temporary roadway approaches shown in yellow. Over to the right is a photo of the bridge from the south approach with a sketch overlay at the top of it showing the anticipated location of the temporary approaches as well as the temporary bridge crossing Comstock Brook, joining Lover's Lane to the north. The temporary bridge will have a span length of approximately 60 feet and will require a temporary earth retaining system at the corner of the Lover's Lane at the retaining wall in conjunction with the work necessary to replace it, as the temporary bridge will be in conflict with it. Purple barrier is shown west of the temporary bridge along the south and north approaches of the existing bridge. This will prevent traffic on Lover's Lane from entering the work zone, which the contractor will be inside of working safely behind the barrier, while the traveling public will be utilizing the temporary bridge away from the work zone. Temporary signalization lights will be placed at both ends of the temporary approaches for the bridge. This will be necessary for allowing traffic to pass over the bridge in a one-way alternating pattern for the entirety of the temporary bridge while it is in service. In addition to the temporary signalization, temporary stoppages of traffic will be required due to the narrower existing roadway of Lover's Lane and the need to move equipment and materials for the installation of removal of temporary bridge and for work at the retaining wall in the northeast corner of the site. So there will be occasional stoppages for facilitating that work, but that will be on an as-needed basis, similar to what's shown in the photo to the right, whereas the temporary signalization will remain in place, again, throughout the entirety of the temporary bridge while it is in service. Here's a profile of the temporary bridge and its approaches shown in orange and yellow respectively, along with the temporary earth retaining system shown in dark gray. Now, before we talk about some of the pros and cons to alternate 1A, I'll first go over alternate 1B. As I mentioned before, the main difference between alternate 1A and 1B is their means of construction. Therefore, the proposed bridge section is identical between the two. For alternate 1B, in plan and elevation view, it is virtually identical to that of alternate 1A. The key difference is that the proposed bridge and roadway for alternate 1B is shifted 4 feet further to the west. You can see that here with the offset from the right-of-way line and the new bridge. Additionally, the shift to the west allows for the existing stone masonry retaining wall, the northeast corner of the bridge, to remain in place with repairs and does not require reconstruction. Here we have a more zoomed out view of the roadway plan showing the limits of all the work. Again, it's very similar to alternate 1A with the exception of the alignment shift 4 feet to the west for both the bridge and the roadway, as well as the need to only do some minor repairs to that retaining wall and not replace it in kind. The limits of the adjacent driveway work will also be similar to alternate 1A as well. Due to that alignment shift to the west, the proposed roadway profile is slightly increased compared to alternate 1A, which results in slightly more grading shown in green here at the south approach to the bridge. Here's a profile of alternate 1A, which is approximately 9 inches higher than the existing roadway. The overall roadway limits are approximately the same as well between alternates 1A and 1B, extending 150 feet in the north direction and 100 feet in the south direction. So in lieu of the temporary bridge used in alternate 1A, alternate 1B will be utilizing staged construction. The existing cross section, shown in the top left, is oriented looking to the north direction of Lover's Lane and represents the bridge in its current configuration as hatched in gray. In stage 1, the temporary barrier curb shown in purple will be placed across the existing bridge, establishing a one-way alternating traffic pattern that uses temporary signalization at each approach to the bridge. A portion of the existing bridge shown in brown will be demolished. The western portion of the new bridge will then be constructed. In stage 2, a temporary barrier will then be installed on the newly constructed western portion of the bridge, and traffic will be shifted accordingly. The remaining eastern portion of the bridge will be demolished. The eastern portion of the new bridge will be then constructed and joined with the section built under stage 1, resulting in the final stage cross-section. As you can see in stage 2, the stage construction results in the eastern curb line of the bridge shifting 4 feet further west. And the reason for this is this shift is required due to the narrow width of the existing bridge and the minimum width that needs to be maintained for a single lane of traffic and a temporary barrier curb during the staging. Here is a plan view of stage 1, indicating a one-way traffic alternating pattern on the eastern portion of the existing bridge. A temporary barrier provides room for the contractor to demo the existing and construct the proposed western portion of the bridge and its approaches. However, space is limited behind the barrier shown in purple here at both the north and south sides of the bridge. Similar to alternate 1A, temporary signalization lights will be placed at both ends of the existing bridge approaches in order to allow for traffic to pass over the existing bridge in one lane in an alternating one-way pattern. Also similar to alternate 1A, there will be temporary stoppages of traffic as required due to the narrow roadway width of Lover's Lane and the need to move equipment and materials into the work zone and behind the barrier throughout construction. These temporary stoppages will be much more frequent than those in alternate 1A and will occur throughout the duration of construction. Leading up to stage 2, the newly portioned bridge and roadway will be constructed with traffic now on the west side of the bridge over the new bridge shown in orange and over the new roadway approaches shown in yellow. Again, the temporary barrier curb shown in purple will provide room for the contractor to demo the existing bridge and construct the proposed eastern portion of the bridge and its approaches. However, space remains limited behind this barrier at the bridge approaches. And again, temporary stoppages will be required in stage 2 in addition to the temporary signalization that will normally be handling traffic. So far we've discussed mostly the technical aspects of the new bridge. Let's take a moment to discuss some of its aesthetics. Across the bridge, open metal bridge rail will be flanked by form-lined concrete end blocks shown in the photo at the top. Beyond the end blocks, a timber guide rail will extend from the bridge along its approaches shown in the photo at the bottom. Alternatively, the metal bridge rail can be replaced with form-lined concrete parapets, which would extend across the full length of the bridge, similar to what's shown in the photo to the right. Lastly, for an additional cost to the town, they may elect to pursue real stone masonry end blocks with metal bridge rails, similar to what's shown in the photo at the top right. You can see a close-up of that real stone masonry and the texture of it, photo to the bottom right. Or in lieu of that, the town may elect to go with real stone masonry parapets across the bridge, similar to what's shown in the photo to the left. As mentioned before, there are overhead utility wires on the east side of the bridge, shown in the photo to the right. The temporary bridge in alternate 1A will require the wires and the utility pole at the northeast corner of the bridge to be relocated further west of the bridge and out of the way. While a temporary bridge is not used in alternate 1B, there will be equipment necessary to lift deck units adjacent to the bridge, in which these equipment will likely be placed in the southeast corner of the bridge, shown here, which would be directly below the utility wires. So it is likely that the utility wires will also need to be replaced under alternate 1B. From an environmental standpoint, both alternates will have impacts within the watercourse and wetlands for the construction of the new bridge. The installation of the temporary bridge in alternate 1A will result in additional wetland and watercourse impacts. Both alternates will also require tree clearing in the vicinity of the bridge due to the widening to the west, as well as tree clearing to the east for the temporary bridge placement in alternate 1A. So in order to construct the new bridge, property acquisitions and easements, both permanent and temporary, will be necessary. Permanent acquisitions are portions of property that will be acquired by the town in order to ensure the limits of the new bridge and roadway are within the town's right-of-way in order to facilitate future maintenance. Permanent easements will be obtained by the town, and these are necessary to maintain certain elements of the bridge, such as a steep roadway slope at its approach, or the need to maintain approach guide rail. The difference between this easement and acquisition is that the property remains with the owner. And lastly, temporary construction easements will be obtained by the town in order to provide access to the bridge for the contractor and equipment during construction. The temporary easement is expunged upon the completion of the project. The next two slides will show where the acquisitions and easements are anticipated for alternates 1A and 1B. Here we have an impact plan highlighting easements in green and property acquisitions in red, with the pink dashed lines representing the town's right-of-way. For the 80 Ridgefield Road property in the top left, there will be a permanent acquisition due to the widened bridge and roadway approaches shown in red. There will be a permanent easement for maintaining the guide rail at the southwest corner of the bridge, and a permanent easement for maintaining the steep slope adjacent to the roadway as well. A temporary construction easement will encompass both of these green and red areas to facilitate construction during the bridge replacement. For the 10 Lovers Lane property at the bottom, as anticipated, there will be a permanent acquisition due to the replacement of the retaining wall in the northeast corner of the bridge, as well as for a portion of the widened roadway in that area. Additionally, a permanent acquisition is anticipated in the southeast corner of the bridge due to the concrete end block. A permanent easement for maintaining the guide rail along the eastern side of Lovers Lane is also anticipated. Lastly, a temporary construction easement will be required again for facilitating all of this work outlined here and for installing and removing the temporary bridge placed east of the bridge.
Hello?
For the play shop property in the top right corner of the plan, a temporary construction easement is anticipated for staging equipment and materials in the northwest corner of the bridge. For 26 Lovers Lane property in the bottom right corner, a right to grade the driveway will be required so that it can match the adjacent limits of the full depth roadway reconstruction of Lovers Lane. Lastly, a right to regrade the driveway will also be required at 19 Lovers Lane. So in all, 4 driveways will be reconstructed at each of these properties. Moving on to alternate 1B, using the staged construction approach, the temporary and permanent impacts are somewhat similar. The key differences are that at the 80 Ridgefield Road property, the property acquisition west of the bridge is increased due to that 4-foot alignment shift of the bridge and the roadway. And that is, of course, required to allow for that staged construction alternate across the existing bridge. This roadway shift also results in a tiny sliver of property acquisition at the play shop due to the widened roadway and the shifted alignment. At 10 Lovers Lane, the property acquisition related to the retaining wall is eliminated because of the alignment shift further west, but there is a small acquisition in the northeast corner related to the roadway widening at the north approach, which remains the same for both alternates 1A and 1B. The temporary construction easement is somewhat smaller on 10 Lovers Lane with the elimination of the temporary bridge, but there still will be impacts in the southeast corner of the bridge for staging equipment and materials. Similarly, a right to grade driveways at 19 and 26 Lovers Lane will be required. Again, a total of 4 driveways will be reconstructed in alternate 1B in the same fashion as alternate 1A. So now that we've discussed both alternates, I'd like to take some time to discuss the pros and cons of each. Items in green or pros are more desirable than the contrasting alternates con or item shown in red. Items shown in orange would be considered neither more or less desirable, but rather neutral between the 2 alternates. Between the 2 alternates, several items have been identified as either permanent or temporary in nature, with temporary meaning throughout the duration of construction. Starting with the permanent items to compare shown in the chart to the left, both bridge superstructures consist of a pre-stressed concrete deck. Both alternates 1A and 1B improve roadway geometry from the existing conditions. For alternate 1A, the temporary bridge will require the stone masonry retaining wall in the northeast corner to be reconstructed, while the stage construction alternate 1B can allow that wall to remain in place with minor repairs due to the roadway shift further west away from the wall. Alternate 1A results in 2 permanent acquisitions, one at 80 Ridgefield Road and one at 10 Lovers Lane, related to the bridge widening and roadway widening and retaining wall work at 80 Ridgefield Road and 10 Lovers Lane respectively, while alternate 1B has an additional permanent acquisition at the play shop property due to the alignment shift of alternate 1B. If you remember in the previous slide, there's that tiny sliver of property at the play shop that now is located within the shifted roadway. Alternate 1A has 2 permanent easements related to maintaining guide rail at 80 Ridgefield Road and 26 Lovers Lane, as well as a slope easement at 80 Ridgefield Road. Same permanent easements are anticipated for alternate 1B. Both construction costs are very close in nature, with alternate 1A coming in at 2.7 million and alternate 1B coming in at 2.6 million. So those are the sort of what's similar and the pros and cons for the permanent items related to alternates 1A and 1B. Moving on to the temporary items shown in the chart to the right, alternate 1A will challenge driveway access for the 3 abutting properties at the bridge due to the temporary bridge placement. Alternate 1B stage construction will have an easier time with access to those driveways because traffic will be over the existing bridge as it sits in its current condition. The windy approaches to the temporary bridge in alternate 1A are less desirable to navigate, again, than over the existing structure as traffic currently flows today and will flow over the bridge in alternate 1B using the stage construction. Both work zone safety for drivers and the contractors is more safe with alternate 1A temporary bridge because traffic is shifted further away from the work site, so it separates the contractor and the traveling public, whereas the stage construction has the traveling public right up against the barrier curb over the bridge with the contractor working right next to it. Both alternates require 3 construction easements, temporary construction easements to facilitate the work. However, the temporary easement extents for alternate 1A are more intrusive related to the placement of the temporary bridge and the work associated with it, particularly at the 10 Lovers Lane property. The temporary bridge used in alternate 1A is expected to speed up construction, saving approximately 1 to 2 months in comparison to alternate 1B, which is expected to take an entire construction season starting in April and ending in November. Both alternates will require 15 to 20 minute stoppages of traffic in addition to any delays that will exist from the one-way alternating traffic pattern that will be utilizing temporary signalization to handle traffic regularly. However, the need for these stoppages on alternate 1A are anticipated solely for installing and removing the temporary bridge, as well as reconstructing the stone masonry retaining wall. So it's anticipated that 30 to 40 of these stoppages would be necessary for installing and removing the temporary bridge as well as that retaining wall. 1B, it's anticipated that approximately 100 of these temporary stoppages of traffic, 15 to 20 minutes would be required due to the narrow roadway width of Lovers Lane. Although the number of these temporary stoppages is very high in comparison to alternate 1A, 150 average out to approximately 1 stoppage per day during the 8-month construction duration. However, it should be noted that certain construction activities will not require these stoppages, so it's likely they come in spurts rather than averaging 1 per day. Lastly, the placement of the temporary bridge in alternate 1A will require the utility wires and poles to be relocated west of the bridge. While it's likely that the wires will need to be relocated under the staged construction alternate, advances into final design will better determine the needs for the contractor's work area and the use of large overhead equipment in relation to these utilities to determine whether or not they need to be relocated. So as you can see here, it's a fairly even balance between the two alternates in terms of both permanent and temporary items, and therefore a clear favorite is not apparent. However, we encourage you to actually provide your questions, comments to us during and after the presentation. So after all the comments have been received from the public during and following this presentation, the town will gather them for consideration and ultimately conclude in selecting the alternate or the bridge replacement. So before I wrap up my portion of this presentation, I wanted to provide a brief overview of the anticipated costs and schedules. Currently, the project is expected to begin construction in the spring of 2023 and finish in the fall of 2023 under one construction season. The anticipated construction costs of the two alternates are outlined here, with 80% federally funded and 20% being covered by the town. Please note that costs and schedule are preliminary and subject to change. With that said, thank you for listening, and at this time I'd like to hand things over to Dennis McDonald of the Rights-of-Way Unit.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis McDonald, and I'm a representative from the Connecticut Department of Transportation Division of Rights-of-Way. I'm here tonight to provide a brief overview of the right-of-way process. Please note, the Town of Wilton has asked DOT to take the lead in terms of right-of-way activities for this project, but DOT will work in concert with the Town of Wilton and Frank Sermiglio to successfully accomplish project goals. That being said, let's talk about the right-of-way process. So the function of the Division of Rights-of-Way is to acquire all property and property rights necessary for the project. This is done in accordance with Connecticut General Statute Section 13A73, 13A98E, as well as the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970 as amended. Now, as you just saw, there are a couple options for the design here, but typical property impacts include partial acquisitions, easements, and various other rights. Of course, this is subject to change as the design progresses. Once property impacts have been determined, each impacted property owner will receive a letter of intent to acquire, along with a property acquisition map. The letter essentially initiates the right-of-way process, and the map provides a detailed breakdown of the specific property impacts. Soon after the letter and map are received, a valuation process will take place, and once a value has been established, each impacted property owner will receive a written offer of compensation. Property owners will be given time to consider the offer and negotiate should they wish. If an agreement is reached, an acceptance document is signed and a closing will take place at a later date. If an agreement cannot be reached for whatever reason, the state will utilize its power of eminent domain and acquire the property rights through the condemnation process. Now, I understand this has a negative connotation, but many times this is done to keep a project on schedule. If the state does elect to pursue eminent domain, the original offer is deposited in the court system available for withdrawal, and property owners can continue negotiations or file a formal appeal for a reassessment of damages through the court system. Please note, all appeals must be filed within 6 months from the date in which the state files for eminent domain. And that's essentially the right-of-way process in a nutshell. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Dennis. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our technical portion of the presentation. I would like to thank everyone on my design team and everyone behind the scenes who helped put this live event together. We are going to leave the Q&A session information on the screen for your benefit, and we will be answering any questions that came in during the presentation and answer any questions that will come in during this live Q&A session. As stated earlier in the technical portion, we are going to be presenting two viable design alternatives. And based on your input this evening, the town will select one design alternative for us to progress to final design. Once again, we would like to remind everyone to please visit the project website to participate in the survey pertaining to tonight's event, or ask additional questions, or view project plans and information. For those of you listening in on the telephone, the project website is again portal.ct.gov/DOT Wilton 161-142. So with that, we are now going to start the live question and answer session. We will take as many questions as we can. Feel free to use that chat feature or call in by telephone. The number is again 860-944-1111, or by email. The address is again dot161-0142@ct.gov. Again, the comment period is open until October 29th.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have a bunch of questions this evening. Thank you very much for those of you that are participating with us tonight, and we look forward to having more questions come in. So I am going to read the first question that we have received, and that question is, has a formal traffic survey been completed? I would like if CHA, if one of you, either Anand or Tom, can please take this question.
Hi, this is Anand from CHA. So we have not completed a formal traffic survey for this project. And unfortunately, the reason for that is because of the COVID situation that we are in, we are likely to get a skewed result. But that said, there are two important components or results that come out of a traffic survey. One is the speed of vehicles that travel the road, and the second is the average daily traffic on the road. And for both of those parameters, our design has adequately accounted for that. With respect to the speed issue, our project accounts for the fact that vehicles up to 30 miles per hour of speed can easily navigate through the roadway, and that is 5 miles per hour more than a typical 25 mile per hour speed limit. The second, relative to the average daily traffic on the bridge, even though we have not done a formal survey currently, there is information available with the department based on previous survey and projecting the traffic to current year. The average daily traffic is estimated to be approximately 400 vehicles. Now, how does that vehicle count impact our roadway design? Where it comes into the play, as Tom had mentioned in one of the slides, is that the roadway width on the bridge is directly related to the traffic count on the bridge. The fact, what federal highway guidelines require us is if the vehicular count on a daily basis is 400 or less, the minimum roadway width on the bridge needs to be 20 feet. However, if it is 401 vehicles up to 1,000 vehicles a day, then the minimum width per federal highway guidelines is 22 feet. And as we showed you in our presentation, our design accommodates a 24-foot wide roadway, which covers the traffic. And should the town also later on decide to go with a 22-foot roadway, that would also be fine, satisfying FHWA guidelines.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anand. We have another question. When is construction anticipated to start? CHA, can you please take that question? Tom.
Sure. Thank you, Pretty. So this is Tom from CHA. Construction is expected to start in the spring of 2023 and complete in the fall of 2023.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tom. The following email question was received. Will the new bridge receive aesthetic treatments to make it fit in with the surrounding environment? Short answer is yes, and I will have Tom from CHA start that question, and perhaps Frank from the town can also weigh in. Go ahead.
Sure, thank you, Pretty. So yes, as we mentioned, there will be aesthetic treatments done on this bridge. The current slide that we have here shows what the normal design would be for this type of bridge. Usually it's a open metal bridge rail system with concrete end blocks that have a nice form-line stone pattern to them. Timber guide rail will connect to that as the bridge approaches. So that's one typical design for a bridge in an area like this with high character. Another option would be a parapet that is fully stone, as shown in the photo to the right, in lieu of the metal bridge rail. So those are the typical two options. And then the third option, which comes at an additional cost to the town, would be to actually use real stone masonry parapets, as shown in the photo on the left.
And just to add to what Tom mentioned, some of these aesthetic treatments, like for example, the color of the bridge rail, the type of stone masonry, that will all be selected by the town, and so they will have an input on that.
So this is Frank Smirglio from the Town of Wilton. One of the things that we're looking to come out of this meeting is to get input from residents as to the type of end walls, the type of parapet walls, and then our intentions are to take that information, have discussions with the Architectural Review Board, and get their input as well as the Historic Commission, so that between the input from residents and then input from the different commissions, then we're looking to take that information and proceed to final design.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. We have another question. How long is construction anticipated to take with stage construction versus the temporary bridge? Can I have CHA take that question, please?
Sure, Pretty. This is Tom again. I can answer that. Let me just pull up the slide here real quick. That compares the two. So for the temporary bridge alternate, it's anticipated to take approximately 6 to 7 months. And with the stage construction alternate, it's anticipated to take approximately 8 months. So 8 months is a typical construction season for a project from April 1st to November 30th. So with the stage construction, we're looking at a full season. With the temporary bridge, because it allows a contractor to work unrestricted without the traveling public close by and provides them more space and doesn't have 2 stages of work, it shaves off approximately a month or 2 from the total construction duration.
Okay, thank you, Tom. We have another question. Can you explain what variables underpin FHWA curb-to-curb limits and provide a link to ADT and FHWA guidelines relevant to curb-to-curb minimums? CHA, can you please take that question?
Sure. Are we able to share the table that has that information so that I can just explain that? Okay, so what you hopefully are seeing on your screen, is basically the FHWA guidelines for what's called item 68, deck geometry. And if you see the left most column where the number shown is the deck geometry rating. So the minimum number that FHWA wants us to target is a rating of 4. And if you see that for average daily traffic of 101 to 400 vehicles, the minimum roadway width required is 20. And then if you have an average daily traffic between 401 vehicle and 1,000 vehicles, the requirement is 22. So that is the basis of the FHWA guidelines and its relevance or its connection between the rating and the average daily traffic.
Okay, thanks, Anand. And I think we can also send this person a link to this table as they requested as well, correct?
Yes, we can do that.
We can, I don't know if we can do it right in the chat box when we reply, or we can definitely reach out to them later if they send us an email. And we can send it through email as well.
Or we can forward it to Frank and
Correct. Okay, as long as it's addressed somehow. Thank you. Another question, has the town secured the necessary funding for the bridge replacement? Frank, can you please take this question?
Sure. Yeah, this is Frank from Wilton again. So we did secure our 20% match for the project. And obviously, as we move design forward, we will keep evaluating the estimate for the project so that we can still just make sure we're all within budget for what we secured and also for what the grant award is.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Another question. The following phone question was received. What is a temporary construction easement and permanent easement, and why is it needed for this project? So can we start maybe with Dennis from Rights Away? He can explain and follow it up with CHA, showing where the temporary easements and permanent easements are needed.
Thanks, Preeti. This is Dennis from DOT Rights Away. So a permanent easement is essentially a right to use land, or in this case, private property for a specific purpose. Property owner still owns the land, and the state will purchase the specific property rights. The easement is recorded on the land records and will run with the land. A typical permanent easement is a slope easement, which would allow us to establish and maintain a slope for the support or safety of the road or bridge. A construction easement, on the other hand, is again a right to use the land, but is specific to the construction activities. The easement is recorded on the land records, but is again temporary in nature and is extinguished upon completion of the project.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yep, and this is Tom again from CHA. So I'll discuss a little bit more specific as to how those easements and acquisitions pertain to this project here. Let me just pull the impact plan slide. So for alternative 1A, we are anticipating 2 permanent acquisitions, 2 permanent easements, and 3 temporary construction easements. And for alternative 1B, stage construction, it's essentially the same with an additional permanent easement. So quickly going to the plan view showing where these 2 easements are. The areas in red are the permanent easements, and those are required because we are widening the roadway, and the bridge and the roadway need to be on town property. So the easement will, or the permanent acquisition will account for that. The areas in green will be a easement. The guide rail easement, where the pointer is currently located, will allow the town to go out and maintain and fix the guide rail, even though it is on private property. So it's not an acquisition per se, where a area of land is taken by the town. It's still the property owner's land, but the town can go in there and make repairs to that guide rail should it become damaged. Additionally, Dennis mentioned a slope easement. So if you look at this little green triangle here, that represents a fairly steep slope along the roadway and near the bridge itself. And so what a slope easement basically does is prevents the property owner from removing that slope because it is supporting the roadway. If that slope were to be removed, then it could jeopardize the structural integrity of the road itself. So the slope easement states that the owner can't excavate out any of that soil that would potentially jeopardize the roadway. But it is not a permanent take of that land. It is still in ownership by the current property owner. And then lastly, the rights. There are a few rights that are needed for driveway regrading. So what that means is that the contractor, when doing the roadway work, will regrade any of these 4 abutting property owners' driveways as the height of the road may vary slightly than it currently does. And so there is no permanent slope easement required for that because it's a small grade. The driveway is very shallow, and if the property owner wanted to go and redo their driveway and change its grade and slope, it's not jeopardizing the structural integrity of the roadway. So therefore, a right in this case is something that the contractor will do, but the property owner can go ahead and make modifications to that down the road at their own. So that's kind of the difference between those 3 as it pertains to this project. And then real brief talking about the differences between the 2. Alternate 1A has the permanent acquisition on the west and on the northeast corner, whereas alternate 1B has more of a permanent acquisition on the west because the roadway is shifting further west, and that permanent acquisition on the northeast corner is lessened because the retaining wall work it is not needed under this alternate. I hope that kind of clarifies the differences between the 3 and how they are impacted by this project.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. We have another question. The question is there an option to have a sidewalk / bike lane across the bridge? And I can start with the answer on that question and probably have the town weigh in as well. So currently there is no plan to put a sidewalk or a bike lane across the bridge. And the reason for that is that currently the bridge does not have either. If it did, obviously we would have done that here. Secondly, we could put a sidewalk if the town has future plans in the works to do so, to have connectivity on the approach roadways. So if we knew that was in the works by the town, we could also probably put in sidewalks. But at the same time, if we do put in sidewalks, you will have a wider bridge. So just pointing that out. So Frank, can you let us know what the town's plans are, if there are any, in terms of future sidewalks?
Yeah, as of right now, there are no plans for future sidewalks. There's the retaining wall as you cross over the bridge going towards Merwin Meadows. There's the big wall on the right there, so trying to put sidewalks going down to Merwin Meadows is very difficult. So that I'm not aware of any future plans for sidewalks. And then again, I know that the width of the bridge will be a sensitive issue, and adding sidewalks now will only make the bridge another 5 feet wider, and will only make it 5 feet wider. So that may be just an issue in itself if we make it wider now for plans down the road that as of right now don't exist.
Okay, thank you, Frank, and I hope that answered that question. Next question. What are going to be the work hours during construction, and is night work anticipated? CHA, can you please take that question?
Sure, this is Anand. Generally, the project specifications will call for contractor work hours to be on weekdays, Monday through Friday, between 7:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. And no work will be allowed during the weekends unless approved by the town. As far as night work is concerned, we don't anticipate the need for any night work on this project because there is sufficient, there would be sufficient number of calendar days that would be available for the contractor to accomplish the construction with either of the alternates by just working during the day hours.
Thank you, Anand. Next question. Will access be maintained at the Playhouse and all other residential properties throughout the construction? CHA, can you please take that question?
Sure. Thank you, Preeti. This is Tom from CHA. So as far as access goes, access will be maintained for all properties throughout construction, particularly at the Playhouse as well. One thing to note, the site is rather tight, so the contractor, in conjunction with the town's inspector, will make themselves known to the property owners and work in close coordination with them throughout construction. If, for instance, the contractor needs to bring in a piece of equipment that may potentially block the driveway for a small period of time, they will talk with the property owner first to make sure that that would either be acceptable or they could work around hours that they would not need to use their driveway. But in general, they will maintain access to all the properties and all the driveways throughout the duration of construction.
Thank you, Tom. We have another question. I expect a fair amount of input to the town and that it will take more than this evening for the community to provide feedback. How long do we have to provide feedback? And are additional hearings with the town scheduled? It would be great if we have a workflow and schedule for feedback / discussions, etc. Town, Frank, would you like to start with that question?
Sure. So there's a lot of moving parts in regards to the bridge. First, we're trying to, what we presented today was preliminary concepts regarding the staging, regarding the phasing, and regarding aesthetics. So we definitely need input by October 29th, just so that we can get an initial input from residents. And the town has to start prioritizing making decisions on this bridge so that we can move forward to final design. So for instance, as far as prioritizing the decisions, our top priority that we have to decide on is whether we go with a temporary bridge or a stage bridge. And since a lot of that affects abutting property owners, it's a sensitive topic. So that's one of the first decisions that we're going to have to make. The second decision, that's a top priority, is going to be whether we go with 22 feet or 24 feet. So those two decisions are very important that we'll have to make right away. The next topic that we'll have to decide on before going into final design stage is the aesthetics of the parapets. With that, we will take all your input, take that information to the Architectural Review Board, to the Historic Commission to get feedback from them. Because we have to decide if we want an open rail system or a stone parapet going all the way across. There's financial impacts to that, so that has to be evaluated. And then the later decisions that we have to make is the type of stone and if it is going to be an open rail type bridge, it's the color of the rail. So again, there's the priority of decisions that we have to make. We do plan on having an active web page on our Department of Public Works website that will share the latest information. And again, my office is here in Wilton, so anyone can call me at any time. Stop in our office. Actually, that would have to be by appointment. So that's our intentions of how we would receive input from residents.
Okay, thank you, Frank. We have another question. Question is, there are not 400 vehicles that cross the bridge daily. So I guess that's a statement. And I will have Anand from CHA respond to that question.
So as I had mentioned previously, we had not done a formal traffic survey because of the COVID situation. And what we do have is records from past traffic information that's contained in bridge inspection reports with volumes that have been projected for current year, and that indicates 400 vehicles to be the current ADT. And that's how we based our design on. And as you can see in the screen here, with 400 being on the threshold of two different criterias, 20 and 22, just to be conservative, we took the criteria for vehicles between 401 and 1,000. And so 22 foot was the requirement based on that.
And this is Frank with the town. Just to add to that, the use of Merwin Meadows really adds traffic flow to that road. That 400 vehicles per day, each trip counts as each trip to Merwin Meadows and then leaving Merwin Meadows really counts as 2 vehicles. And you'd be surprised how fast 400 vehicles adds up. And then the other thing is this year there was definitely limited use of Merwin Meadows because of COVID. So that's why it was difficult to get a true count based on this summer.
Okay. Thank you, Anand and Frank. We have another question. Why did we do all this work on designs for a 24-foot width before soliciting feedback if the guidelines only stipulated a 22-inch or 22 feet width based upon an estimate of 400 vehicles per day? So can we start with Anand, and again, Frank, if you also would like to chime in.
Hi, this is Anand. So there are actually 2 important things when we design or determine the roadway width. One is that we discussed, or we've been discussing a lot, is the FHWA, the federal requirements, which is based on the average daily traffic. The second criteria that we have not spoken much about is also the Connecticut Department of Transportation's highway design requirements for an urban local road. So Lovers Lane is classified to be an urban local road, and for any new construction, the guidelines for that is a 24-foot wide roadway. But that said, since it's a state requirement, the town does have leeway in not meeting it and just satisfying the FHWA requirements. So we wanted to make sure that when we design something, we were satisfying both the federal and the state requirements. And as I said, the town has the option of selecting something as long as it definitely meets the federal requirements. Secondly, Tom explained to you the 2 stages of construction. One was with the temporary bridge, and the second was with the staging. If hypothetically the town does go with a staging alternate, then if we don't go with a 24-foot wide roadway, the current shift in alignment that we show to be 4 foot will actually be more than 4 foot. Because as you can see in your screen below on the bottom right, with a 24-foot wide roadway, the alignment shift is about 4 feet towards the west. So if we narrow the footprint of the bridge and make it narrower, then that alignment shifts further to the west. That's again something else to just keep in mind as the town makes a decision on which alternate to select.
The other thing, just to add, this is Frank from the town. As part of the design process, there's a preliminary design. With preliminary design, you have to look at all the options. So there wasn't a lot of work. I mean, there was a lot of work, but you have to show plans of what the effects are if you make the bridge 24 feet, and you have to look at what the effects are if you make the bridge 22 feet. So that's an exercise that has to happen. There were a few other options that were considered too, but these two are the two options to present to the residents. When you're looking at a bridge, you're only building a bridge once. So you have to look at the effects of what happens if you make it 24 feet and what happens if you make it 22 feet. So it's definitely an exercise that has to happen as part of this process. And then moving forward, we won't continue both options. We'll just move forward with one option. And that's kind of like the big picture answer to why the evaluation was done.
Thank you, Frank. We have another question. The question is, can you please provide the math, assessment, past records, etc., that was done to project the 400 cars per day? And can I have Mark Burns, our project engineer, address that part of that question, and Tom from CHA also answer it from a design perspective as well.
Okay, thank you, Pretty. This is Mark Burns, project engineer for the Connecticut DOT. What goes into determining the average daily traffic and the traffic counts? There are certain formulas that our Bridge Safety and Evaluation Unit uses during the bridge inspection, because traditionally on municipal or town roads, we don't have traffic count stations, but there are available traffic count maps from 2014 for Ridgefield Road and portions of Belden Hill Road. And it appears from that data they interpolate information based on amount of residents, what is in the area, such as the park, to determine a relative daily traffic count.
And to add to what Mark stated, this is Tom from CHA, by the way. Based on the bridge safety inspection reports, the average daily traffic is currently listed at 400. But again, as we noted, this is likely an estimate because we don't have counts, and also projections into the future will only result in this number likely to be increasing, especially with the use of the Merwin Meadows Park. So, there's obviously some certain characteristics of the park itself, and there may not be a formula that captures that park specifically, but based on the town's input, the use of the park is projected to increase as well.
Okay, thank you, Mark and Tom. We have another question. Will the slides shown today be available? Yes, everything that you have seen today with all the slides, they will be made available on the project webpage. Again, it's portal.ct.gov/DOT Wilton 161-142. And as well, there will be a recording of the entire presentation along with the Q&A that will be made available within a couple of days on the project webpage as well. And we have another question. Can we see the plans for the 22, I believe it says 22 feet, not 22 inches, with that have implications for the move further west? So CHA, can you show and probably talk to it, because we don't have the 22 feet shown on the plans, but we can talk about it.
Sure. Pretty, this is Tom from CHA. I can kind of walk everyone through why 24 feet and 22 feet and even narrower will cause the shift to become worse. So I'll just quickly walk through the stage and cross sections we have here and hope to better explain why we're doing an alignment shift and what the alternative to that would be, which will likely be even more detrimental in terms of the bridge width. So the existing bridge is 16'6" from curb to curb, shown in the existing cross section here. For stage one, we need to have at least an 11-foot lane to handle traffic in a one-way alternating pattern. And so that leaves us only a small portion of the existing bridge that we can demolish. We have to account for the 2-foot width of the temporary barrier curb, shown in purple here. We also have to account for some distance behind it because we don't want the barrier right up against where they're saw cutting the deck. So there's this 3-foot extra space here that sort of, we can't construct anything on it while traffic's running. So when we switch to stage 2, contractor will start to build out the portion of the bridge deck as much as he can, close to the existing, approximately 7-inch gap between. And what is built out has to, again, leave 11 feet for a one-way alternating traffic pattern and 2 feet for that barrier. So those strict requirements in having to maintain an 11-foot lane for the stage construction, it dictates where we need to set this western edge of curb on the new bridge. So if we were to make the new bridge a 20-foot wide bridge, then essentially this curb will need to be shifted further west so that more bridge deck can be built to accommodate the 11-foot lane. And so in plan view, to that, we currently have a 4-foot shift in the roadway with the 24-foot wide curb to curb width. If we were to make it a 22-foot wide bridge, then this shift would be an additional foot further west and additional 2 feet if we were to go with 20 feet. Now, you may ask, why are we shifting the alignment? Why don't we just hold the curb line where alternate 1A is doing? Well, the reason we don't do that is because of the exercise we just walked through with the various stages. We need to maintain that minimum 11 foot. And if we didn't move the shoulder, then we would essentially be left with an overbuilt bridge that is not 24 feet, but rather 28 feet to properly stage it. So the way of getting around making a wider bridge to make staging work is to shift the alignment into the stage construction. So as we make the bridge more narrower, that alignment shift becomes even greater. So I hope that helped answer that.
And just to add to that, this is Frank from the town. That's in the stage scenario. In the scenario, in the alternate where there's a temporary bridge, basically you're building the temporary bridge first, and then once the temporary bridge is active, then you can remove the existing bridge and then place it back where you want it. So in that scenario, then we would hold the curb line, the eastern curb line, so that the 22 feet starts from that same edge of where the eastern curb line is now.
Yeah, that's correct, Frank. So with the stage construction alternative, going with a more narrower bridge becomes even more complicated.
Okay. Thank you. We have another question. Can you share the written assessment of the 400 cars per day in a link? I don't think we have a link that we can share because we don't have that information readily available. But Mark, I think you have a little bit more information you can add to that.
Yes, James, if you could, I sent you a picture, if you could post that up. I took a screenshot of the traffic counts between 2011 and 2014 using the portable count stations on the adjacent roads, which are Ridgefield Road and looks like Belden Hill Road. At the intersection right before Lover's Lane, going more towards Route 7, the average daily traffic was approximately 13,000 vehicles per day. Thank you, James. On Belden Hill Road, it was approximately 4,500 vehicles per day from 2011. And then going from the intersection, it was 7,700 vehicles per day. So using this data, I believe Bridge Safety interpolated this data based on vehicles in the area and whatnot. We are available to do a traffic count. However, I should caution too that based on these numbers, if the counts come up higher than 400 vehicles per day, say per chance we hit the 1,000 mark on vehicles per day, we would be forced to go to a wider bridge to satisfy functional obsolescence criteria.
And just one other thing to add to that, if the number was 390 vehicles per day, this bridge is going to be here. This bridge is going to be here for a long time. So I don't think I would recommend, finding a survey that shows that the vehicle count is 390 just to get the bridge down to 20 feet wide. I still would strongly recommend 22 feet wide.
Thank you, Frank, and that is a very good point. Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to point out that this bridge replacement, this new bridge with proper maintenance is going to last at least 75 years. So you're just talking about this snapshot in time. So you do have to take that into account. And Frank, that's a very, very good point that you brought up. So, ladies and gentlemen, hold on. I think, okay, we have another question. I thought we were wrapping it up. So we have another, I guess, a statement. A traffic survey is essential. Okay, well, thank you for your comment. It is duly noted for the record. And I think that's, oh, well, okay. We have more from the same person who has asked questions about the count. And that question is, I have additional feedback and commentary and don't have any more time this evening for this. Do we send additional commentary to the project email? Yes, I would recommend that you do that. And you're free to contact any one of us if you would like to discuss this further offline. We are available to talk further in detail about it with you. Okay. And another question. How can access to the gravel drive leading to the parking lot in the back of the Wilton Plate Shop be maintained during construction given the two temporary traffic options? Tom from CHA, will you please take that question?
Sure. Thank you, Pretty. Thank you for the question. Let me pull up the plan showing the staged alternative. So in stage one, we are anticipating working on the western portion of the existing bridge with traffic going over the eastern portion of the existing bridge in a staged pattern. We obviously need work site, we need room around the existing bridge in order to replace a portion of it in stage one. So the contractor will establish a work zone behind the purple barrier shown here. The way that the barrier is currently laid out is preliminary, but based on the amount of space that we think the contractor would need to adequately have enough equipment and materials in order to work behind the barrier, we believe that the access to the driveway to the back of the play shop would not be impacted. Now, the front portion of the property at where the roadway is in close proximity to the front of the building will likely be needed for the contractor to place equipment or materials to work on the northwest corner of the bridge. So there will be some temporary impacts in a temporary construction easement to account for that work, but we don't expect any concerns with access to the gravel driveway behind the play shop.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. So it looks like we're no longer receiving any more questions for this evening. So I am going to take this opportunity to start wrapping up. Before I do, I would like to encourage you to take that brief survey, the link that is shown in the chat box. For those of you watching on YouTube, the survey is below the video. This would really help us improve this virtual meeting experience in the future. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the department and the town of Wilton, I would like to thank you for joining us tonight. And we hope that you found this meeting and presentation to be informative. All of us on the design team and the town of Wilton are always available to answer any questions, even outside of the comment period. We are also available to meet with you individually on the project site if you so desire. Thank you once again and have a wonderful evening.